QPR Preview Show number 16 this season, but for the first time in 7 months, we're here celebrating back-to-back wins for QPR. It's actually back-to-back home matches we'll be previewing shortly, but let's look back on that win at Preston first, which brought us that second consecutive win. Dave, was it a much well-deserved win for you in the end?
Yeah, it was weird after the last year we've had to have a game where there seemed to be no pressure. And I don't know about you, I just didn't ever think we were going to lose the game. We just seemed quite comfortable throughout, and it was all right. It was, first half was a bit dull. They didn't really do a lot, but they had a really good shape about them. They didn't look like conceding. And then once Chair come on, it was one-way traffic, and it was as good as the Stoke win was, I think this was a more impressive performance. We looked a proper team, and it reminded me a lot of the early Warburton days when we started to pick up wins away from home. We just looked very solid and comfortable throughout. It was bizarre when you think that's the same team that was doing mad things a couple of weeks ago and getting hammered by everyone. But it was a very promising result and performance.
Yeah, we absolutely dominated the second half. Like you said, I think it's probably our most dominant 45 minutes for a long, long, long time. And I think you're right to there say about how the manager's changed the club so quickly. He's got 8 points in 5 games, and you have to consider that Ainsworth only had 8 points from 14 games when he was sacked. The difference is just light years to see. And I think, as well as Fuentes is doing at the start of his reign, it's not helping to paint Ainsworth's reign in a good light looking back now, is it? Because how was he doing what he was doing with the same players? Because he's turning it around pretty quickly, isn't he?
Yeah, it's not painting Ainsworth well. I mean, I always thought with Ainsworth when he come in, the one thing he'd do would make us hard to beat, and we'd be a solid team. Wouldn't be very good to watch, but we'd be solid. But we never were. We were wide open all the time, and I think the most impressive thing that he's done since he come in is making us harder to beat. We haven't been shipping loads of chances to the opposition, which we were before. We were conceding 3-4 goals a game and conceding about 10 easy chances as well. We just look a lot more solid, and we're in games a lot more. So we obviously can have a much better chance of winning. I think the Preston game, I don't remember them having a clear-cut chance all game, to be honest. They had a couple of free kicks and corners, but it's not, Rangers were very good without the ball in that game. And I thought in recent games as well against Bristol City as well. It shows what, the coaching's obviously working, and you're seeing like just individual players looking like different players completely. The difference between Willock now and Willock 3-4 weeks ago is incredible. I don't know if he's got another brother who's been playing for us for a year. It's insane.
No, it is. It's a big difference. We'll come back onto Willock shortly. But you're right about the manager. He's got them playing such clear plan of how to go and attack a game. Second half against Preston, you just said it there, but they were stifling the team so quickly. We clearly knew how to get the ball off them. They didn't have a sniff. I think the best chance they had was given offside. So it was such a clever lineup as well, wasn't it? Because the first half was poor, but in hindsight, it appears it was almost the plan to keep it tight, then bring on Chair when we could be more expansive in the second half against a cold and tired Preston defence. We've just not had that level of management for a long time at QPR.
Yeah, no, and it's from what he said after the games, he did similar against Stoke. He thought that Willock would come on late, and he did that against Stoke, and he done the same in this one. Chair probably come on earlier than he expected, but that completely changed the game. We were doing all right first half, but he just added so much attacking threat, and I imagine Chair was a bit peeved that he weren't playing, and like wanted to go out and prove, well, how can you drop me? And he had something to prove, and he went out and he did it. He didn't sulk about it. He played really well, and it was telling how. I don't know if this has come from the manager or not, but how early his crosses were. He wasn't hanging on to the ball too long. He was putting in balls into the box, and the number of players in the box is like incredible compared to where it was before. You're getting 3-4 players in the box trying to get on the end of things now, and you just weren't having that before. And even when Preston were clearing the ball, you had players coming in from midfield, like you said, winning the ball straight away, and you were back on them again. It was so much better. Long may it continue.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not rocket science, some of it, is it? It's just playing to players' strengths. Like Smith, get it, run at the defender, Chair, do this, will it? It's simple enough. We've said it for a long, long time, didn't we? That the key to QPR was to have Chair and Willock playing well in the same side. I know we're not just saying it. We said it every week when Ainsworth was in charge. Why is he not doing it? And he was bringing on Willock as like a 95th minute substitute. It was just all so strange. And on Fuentes, it looks like the club really have nailed a managerial appointment here, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've said it before. I mean, I wish they'd have got him when Beale left, really, when you look at it. I know he could cost a fair bit of money then, but what they've spent on 2 managers since, and, it's a shame he didn't come a year ago. It's very early days, things could change, but he looks and sounds the real deal so far. How he's turned this team around to be, competitive, and we're starting to look up the table now. In such a short space of time, I didn't expect that. I thought we'd play better football, but you wouldn't see results come. But he's managed to do both. It's impressive so far.
It definitely is, and it's the big question. But obviously, there's a long way to go in the season. But as it stands now, do you think he's going to keep us up?
Still think it's going to be difficult because you see all the other teams won again last week. It's like we haven't actually moved anywhere. But I think I have a lot more hope that we'll stay up now. I look at teams. Before I was looking at like Huddersfield, basically, can we finish above them? Now you're looking up to Birmingham and Swansea, they're catchable, and you're looking higher up the league now. I think there's enough games left this season to get out of this. We just need to continue this momentum. There's a real opportunity in the next 2 months. The number of home games we got, turn this home form around. We could be in a good place by the end of January.
Yeah, I mean, we are a little bit closer to the safety line. And like you're saying, we've dragged a few other teams who maybe thought they were miles away back into the picture a little bit, especially if we can get some wins this week. For me, he just looks like he's ahead of the game. And I think he will keep us up because I like everything I'm seeing. I like that he says he wants 15 points out of 15 rather than being happy with 8 points. I do think we could survive with him in charge. And I already get the feeling we maybe have to enjoy him whilst he's here. He has that feel about him already, doesn't he? Other clubs, if he can save QPR from the position we were in, with the contrast of how he's had to come in and change everything around, other clubs will be looking at him very quickly. You'll have to let us know in the comments what your thoughts on Fuentes are so far and whether you think he's going to keep us up this season. Let us know. On to the previews. It's Hull up first on Saturday. They're currently 6th, but lost last time out, albeit to a total wonder goal lob from Watford, which is well worth watching back if you haven't seen it, just to see the Hull goalkeeper turn and start berating his defence for reasons unknown, even though it was his fault for standing so far off his line. Hull may be top 6, but they are lacking a little bit of inconsistency. They seem to win every other game, which doesn't bode well for QPR if they keep that run going. Have you seen anything of them this season?
I haven't seen a full game of them, but I think they've done really well. I really like their manager. I think, I always thought he was the brains behind it all at Derby when Rooney was getting all the credit, and I think it's shown since when Rooney's gone on his own, he's been nowhere near as good. And he's done a good job there the last year or so. He come in and they looked a bit of a mess hole, probably similar to what we looked a couple of weeks ago. And he kept them up comfortably last year. And, they're not going to be any danger this year. They're in the playoffs now. I don't think they'll make the playoffs at the end of the season, but I think they're going to be comfortably mid-table. And I think he's a manager to look out for. He's done really well with that squad. It's not an easy game. We're coming off, we're all on a high. We've had 2 good wins. This isn't an easy home game to come back to. It's a big week for us, but this is a difficult start to it.
Yeah, he's got them on an upward trajectory, that's for sure. And to be top 6 at this stage of the season, they'll be thinking, can we stay there all season? And you've got to look, they've only lost to the likes of Southampton, Ipswich, West Brom, Watford. It's taken decent sides to beat them. So we're going to have our work cut out if we want 3 points.
Yeah, I mean, they do seem to do well against the bottom teams, and they put them away. This is a difficult one for us. They're similar in style to us. They like to keep the ball as well. So I think it'll be a very difficult game for us. But we've just got to concentrate on ourselves, really, build on what we did in the last 2 games. Confidence has got to be up. They must be feeling good after those wins. Hearing from the players how much they're enjoying it. Just going to attack the game. I've got a lot more faith in this manager to get it right in these sort of games than I did a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, it's a difficult game, but not an impossible one.
Yeah, I mean, looking at QPR, the focus has to remain on the manager, deservedly so for me this week, because you said it last week after Stoke, how his subs changed the game, but it was the same against Preston, his use of the subs, the use of the squad, because he made some brave changes, dropping the likes of Steve Cook and Chair to the bench to start with. It's definitely the best game management from QPR manager for a long, long time. I'm thinking it's better than even we saw from the likes of Beale and Warburton when you're changing a game and using your squad that well.
Yeah, what's been impressive is how he has used the squad. There's been players that I wouldn't have thought of, like Dixon Bonner. He was a bit of a in and out player under Ainsworth. He looks a really good player and now he's got in this new style. And you think, oh, we've got one there. We've got someone who can come in and play like 10, 15 games for us, whereas we didn't look like we had much of a squad before. He's used Smith well. Having Clark sort of back is massive. I thought he was very good against Preston and against Stoke as well. So it's great to have him back and Cook as well. And if we can get Reggie Cannon fit long term, I know he only played an hour or so in that game on Friday, but, things are looking up. And he, like I say, he is using the squad well. I've been impressed with his use of subs. It's been a long time since we've said that, Normally, like you were saying before, making 95th minute changes to bring Willock on. What was the point of any of that sort of thing? He's trying to make changes to win the game. He's not. I love that attitude. We're not here to draw them. We're here to win the games. And go with that positive mindset. There's really is nothing to be scared of in this league. Teams can beat you on their day because there's good teams in this league, but there's no Man Cities, there's no Real Madrids in this league. Everyone's got weaknesses, and we should be trying to exploit that. And I'm quite encouraged by that. That's what the manager seems to want.
Yeah, I agree. It seems like everything he's doing has a purpose. He's not just making subs for the sake of it. He's not just dropping players for the sake of it. He seems to have like a plan for next week, the next game. It all bodes well, and everything does look better from a QPR perspective. I mean, all the stats that we have at the bottom of the screen, they're all heading in the right direction. From possession amount, passing accuracy, XG, both for and against, have gone completely the right way since he's come in. And like we said before, he's already achieved as much in 5 games as Ainsworth did in 14 games. So we have a lot to be positive about. On the pitch, we have to give Ilias Chair his moment this week. He was sensational, wasn't he, up at Preston? At the centre of everything, 2 assists. A joy to watch, but the caution is, of course, the January transfer window is just around the window. Clubs are going to have seen him play at that level. Do you think clubs are going to be looking at him next month?
It should be. I mean, he's a bargain for someone. He's such a good player. It's going to be a very difficult decision because part of why we're in this mess is because we haven't sold players when they were doing well and we've hung on to them. And there's a strong argument to say, right, don't sell, keep him and Willock, stay up, and we'll see where we go from there. But if someone comes in with a 5-6 million bid or maybe more, the club have got to consider, as much as we'd miss him, you can put that money back in the squad and get 5-6 players for that sort of money. It's going to be a difficult decision. I think clubs will be in for him in January. You've seen how it is at the top. Leeds were after him, weren't they, in August?
Yeah.
And they're still behind Ipswich in a minute, so they're probably going to spend a bit. So I wouldn't be surprised if people come in for him. I don't want him to go, but probably be the best thing if we get a big bid. They're going to have to take it.
Yeah, I think we'd have to just trust that the manager will use the funds well, wouldn't we? Because you're right, we can't. I know we don't want him to go, but it would probably be the right thing for the club. And I do worry he will go because, like you said, Leeds, it's a little bit like Bournemouth a few years ago, isn't it? Where they just bought loads of players in January just to try and get themselves over the line. Leicester might even be linked again because they haven't been too consistent of late. It's just they just look at it as trying to bring in extra quality, don't need to get over the line. And I think Ilias Chair will be on a lot of shopping lists. We've already said it, Chris Willock back on form. Also, Paul Smith got his first goal since he returned to QPR. Finally, we should have players brimming with confidence in the final third of the pitch, shouldn't we?
Yeah, it's such a change. We were only talking the other week about how we ever going to score a goal, and then we score 6 in 2 games. It's like, where did that come from? But just getting that one goal brings a lot of confidence. Willock looks a completely different player since that goal against Stoke. He just looked back to his best at Preston. And Smith as well. He's been dangerous in all the games, but hasn't quite got that final pass right or the final shot right. And maybe that first goal will, spark him on a little bit now. There's good players there still. They just need to put it together a bit more often, I do still worry about the number of goals we can score. But the way that we've created a lot more chances the last few games, maybe that'll balance out. If we have more chances, there's more chances to score it, isn't there? The trouble was before you create 1 or 2 chances a game, and the strikers we've got, they're not going to score with only 1 or 2 chances. They need a bit more. But, for me, they're still going to need to look to invest in January to get another striker or 2 in.
Yeah, I think some of it, though, does come down to confidence, and they should all have now belief that they can score, take things from the results. Everything's, like we've kept saying, is heading in the right direction, as was a clean sheet at Preston as well. And I suppose the only other question mark about the QPR lineup this week is, will Steve Cook come back in? Because it is a little bit of a risk to change a defence that only let Preston have 1 shot on target.
Yeah, and it's another 3-game week, so I imagine he's going to Can Cook play 3 games in a week? Will he maybe look at the other 2 games as potentially ones that Cook plays in? I don't know. I think for me, Clark sort of has to play if he's fit. He's real key for us. And then I think you can swap Dunn and Cook around. Dunn was not bad. I've been critical of Dunn. He's been poor this season, but I thought Preston he was a lot better, and hopefully he can build on that performance the next few weeks. I think he might stick with those 2 for Saturday, and then maybe bring Cook back for the Plymouth game.
Yeah, I think he might be the opposite and go with Cook in the 2 weekend games. But yeah, I don't. It's good that he's at least got some options, and players are staking them place in the side, aren't they? So we'll just go for that. Plymouth in midweek, who come to town, and it's going to be our first league meeting for 13 and a half years. Last met in the league back in March 2010, a match QPR won, but that was our only win in the last 12 matches against Plymouth. They were like a real bogey side for us when we were meeting regularly between like 2002, 3 to 2010. Since then, the only time we met was in the Cup a couple of years ago, and of course QPR lost. I do feel like the Grim Reaper of stats sometimes, but that's QPR for you. Most pre-season predictions had Plymouth struggling this season. Do you see them still struggling from here?
They'll be down there, but I thought they bought well in the summer. They got goals in their team. They bought some good forwards, and they're always in games. You've seen a lot that they keep picking up wins because they've got so many goals in their team, and that's keeping them over the line in a minute. And you look at how poor some of the teams have been, including ourselves, you'd think they might have enough to stay up, but probably, even though they've had a decent start, they're not really clear of it, are they? I think they're 6 clear of us, but that's not a massive gap at this stage of the season. They'll be down in the bottom 6 or 7 this season, but I do think with the goals they got, they'll probably have enough just to stay up this time.
Yeah, I think exactly the same. My notes here said they've scored 31 goals, which is more than some of the sides in the top half. And if you're scoring at that rate, compared to the likes of Rotherham, QPR, Sheffield Wednesday, I have a feeling they're going to be more than safe. Cifuentes isn't scared to rotate. We've seen it. We've mentioned it. Do you think, regardless of the result against Hull, we're going to see quite a few changes in midweek?
Yeah, I think he's the sort of manager that will plan for these 2 games, and there will be changes in mind. He's done it the last 2 with Willock and Chair. He might do the same again, maybe leave Willock out and bring him off the bench. I wouldn't be surprised to see him do that. I don't know if Armstrong's back. I know he's been out injured for a bit. Hopefully he's around at the weekend. I wouldn't be surprised to see him make changes to make sure they're fresh for both games. He doesn't seem one, though, that targets particular games. I know in the past, I think probably under Ainsworth, we've seen a stronger team play on Wednesday against Plymouth because they thought that's a more winnable game. I don't see Cifuentes doing that. I think he'll think we can beat Hull, and it'll be a strong team that he plays at the weekend. But there may be just 1 or 2 little tweaks, between the 2 games.
Yeah, it's certainly got harder to predict because no one would have thought Ilias Chair was going to get dropped to the bench last week. Probably not Steve Cook, but it's good that he's got these options, like we say. Prediction time: 6 points on offer at Loftus Road this week. How many do you think QPR are going to get?
I think it'll be 4. I'm not sure which way around it'll be. I think if we get a draw and a win from these 2, more likelihood is we'll beat Plymouth and draw with Hull. But yeah, I think it'll be a draw and a win with these 2, and that'll be a pretty decent return before Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, we've only won 3 times in a row once in the last 18 months. It would be nice to do that by winning on Saturday, but I do think that's a tough fixture on paper. I just hope we can keep the confidence going. 4 points, like you say, would be a good haul out of 6. It would keep us ticking in the right direction. If we can get 6 points, great. I do think that anything less than 3 points would probably be disappointing when we reconvene this time next week. We need the points. We need to keep putting pressure on those teams, drag more into it like we've been talking about. So hopefully we can get at least 3 points, but more would be brilliant, wouldn't it? We'll be back next week to preview a big clash at the bottom as we travel to Sheffield Wednesday. Shame we couldn't have played them a few weeks ago because they're picking up, it seems. Hopefully we're still as happy as we are this week when we reconvene, like I say. Join us for next week's show. Thank you for watching, and come on, you R's.
We know who we are. You know who we are. We are QPR.